Hi guys, it's Marcy Fiorillo here, and today we are going to work through Chapter 3 in your Photoshop text, working with selections. Now, I want you to go ahead and work through the entire chapter, but what we're going to focus on is selecting and removing an object from its background like you're going to need to do in your assignment this week. There are a lot of different selection tools that your chapter goes over, but the one that I like to use the most is the magnetic lasso tool. This tool works best when you have a very stark contrast between your figure and the ground. And here we have my son who visited New York City over spring break last year. And we're going to do is practice selecting him from the background and removing him like you're going to do in your homework, but also like you're going to do in your first project. Now, obviously, you can use all the other selection tools like the squares and the circles, but those are too easy. What I want you to do is learn how to select an object and eliminate it from the image that it's in. So using my magnetic lasso, what we're going to have to do is click and drag around his entire body. So you want to make sure you have plenty of room on your mouse pad. Once you start dragging, there's no stopping. So make sure you've saved your work up until this point, because if you mess up, you're going to need to start over. So I'm going to start over here at the very tip of his shoulder here, and I'm going to click once to get my first starting point. And then as I drag, it's going to stick to the contrast between the figure and the background. So where the figure and the background contrast is greatest, it will stick the most closely. But sometimes it might get a little muddy, and in that case we're going to have to clean it up afterwards. So I am just dragging along the edge of his hoodie here, and notice how cleanly it's doing it between the bright gold and the blue of the sky. Where it's going to get a little muddy is down here with the city, because the contrast isn't as nearly as definitive. As you can see, it's bubbling out there, but that's okay. We're going to fix those in a second. So I'm going to click along, or not click, sorry, drag along his shoulder all the way down and to the bottom. Now this one I'm going to try to drag over as evenly as possibly along the bottom of the image, but as you can see, it's bubbling up to catch some of his graphics on his hoodie, and then up all the way up to our starting point. Once we reach the starting point, you'll see that the cursor changes and it gives you a little circle there, meaning it's complete. So I'm going to click at that point, and now notice that my son Jake is selected from the background. Now the way you're going to do your homework assignment this week and your photo collage is you're then going to separate him from the background. So really all we need to do here is to edit and cut, or you can use your keyboard shortcuts and do Control X, and notice he is gone. Don't panic, he's not gone forever. I'm going to go over in my layers window here and click a new layer, and now I'm going to paste him into the new layer. You can also do edit, paste, or paste special, paste in place, and that'll put him exactly back where he was on the original layer. So that's what I'm going to do. So there we have him on a separate layer, and I know that he's on a separate layer because I can toggle the visibility over here and see that he is separate from his background. Now when you submit your homework, you want to toggle this visibility and save each time with it, once with the figure gone and once with the background, so we can see where you are. But what I want to show you now is for your project, you want to clean these edges up. And the easiest way for me to do it is just erase them. So on the layer of the figure, I'm going to go over and choose my eraser tool. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit so I can see what I'm doing here. I want my eraser to be small enough to where I can get in really close, but also large enough to where I'm not having to, you know, erase. So 20 is about good for me. And for the eraser tool, you just kind of click and drag like you do with many of the tools. And once you let go, that's one step backwards. So you want to be sure to do short little strokes with this in case you mess up. You can also just click and it'll take out a chunk. And so what I do is I just go along and I kind of get the edge of where it didn't come off very cleanly. And this is what you're going to want to do with your project, because you want your selections to be super clean to show your editing skills. Okay, and that is how you can remove an object from its background and clean it up using the magnetic lasso. Now, of course, there's the regular lasso and there are all kinds of other selection tools. See which one you like best, see which one works best for you. To save this for your homework assignment, you're going to want to toggle back and forth between the background and the foreground, and save it both times. So first I'm going to save it as the foreground, so I've turned off the layer for the background, and I'm going to go up and I'm going to choose File, Save As, and I'm going to label this as the foreground. I don't want it to be a PSD because this is just for the homework, so I'm going to change it to a JPEG file and save it. And then if you go to that file on your computer, you'll notice when you open it, it is devoid of the other layer. And then to just do the same thing, I'll turn off that layer and turn on the background layer and save as, and call this the background. Save it as a JPEG. And notice when I open that up on my computer, that Jake is missing out of it, just so we can see your selection.